Aquarius, something in your life is becoming impossible to fake. Not because the world suddenly changed overnight, not because everyone finally woke up and saw your worth, but because you have reached that dangerous, sacred edge where pretending to be fine costs more than telling the truth. And if you have been feeling restless lately, unusually sharp, strangely emotional in moments when you expected to stay cool, this may be why. A quiet reckoning is building. Not around you, inside you. You are often described as detached, mysterious, hard to read, but that has never been the full story, has it? What many people call distance is often self-protection. What they call unpredictability is sometimes the sound of a soul refusing to be trapped. What they call coldness is, in many Aquarians, the result of having felt too much for too long and learning how to survive by turning feeling into thought, ache into analysis, heartbreak into insight. And that strategy worked. For a while, it made you impressive, composed, functional, useful, the one who could see what others missed, the one who stayed calm in chaos, the one who could zoom out when everyone else was drowning in drama. But there is a hidden cost to always being the visionary, the observer, the one with perspective. Sometimes you become so skilled at understanding life that you forget to fully live it. You become so good at reading patterns that you start excusing what should have ended. You become so used to being the one who gets it that you keep standing in rooms where nobody truly gets you. That may be the part no one talks about enough when it comes to Aquarius. You can survive emotional loneliness longer than most people can imagine. You can adapt. You can intellectualize. You can tell yourself that what matters is freedom, purpose, possibility, and all of that is true. But there are seasons when your soul demands more than survival. There are seasons when your heart gets tired of being managed like a problem to solve. This may be one of those seasons. You may be noticing how certain conversations now leave a strange aftertaste. Not dramatic enough to call toxic. Not obvious enough to justify a clean break. Just subtle enough to make you doubt yourself. A joke that lands a little too sharply. A person who only seems drawn to you when they need your clarity, your ideas, your emotional regulation. A relationship where you are celebrated for being different, but quietly punished the moment your difference stops being convenient. And that is where the shift begins. Because Aquarius does not awaken all at once. You awaken in flashes, in electric recognitions. In moments so small they almost seem ridiculous, a text you no longer want to answer, a plan you suddenly cannot force yourself to keep, a room full of people where you realize you are not shy, not antisocial, not too much, not too strange. You are simply done shrinking your truth to preserve an atmosphere that was never feeding you. That realization changes everything. You are a sign that sees systems, not just people. Systems, the invisible agreements inside families, the emotional economy inside friendships, the power structure inside romance, the unspoken rules inside work, community, identity, ambition. You notice who gets to be messy and still be loved, who gets to take up space without apology, who is allowed reinvention, who is expected to stay predictable so everyone else can remain comfortable. And if you are honest, there may be a part of your life where you have been unconsciously participating in a version of yourself that is already expired. Maybe you became the cool one because being openly needy once led to disappointment. Maybe you became the independent one because asking for help made you feel trapped, judged, or misunderstood. Maybe you became the future-focused one because the present asked you to sit with pain you were not ready to name. Maybe you learned to make yourself essential because being deeply cherished felt less reliable than being useful. That is not weakness. That is adaptation. But even the most intelligent adaptation becomes self-betrayal when it outlives its purpose. And, Aquarius, I need to say something that may land a little hard. Some of your exhaustion is not coming from how much you do. It is coming from how often you abandon yourself while doing it. From how often you stay mentally miles ahead of everyone else, then resent them for not meeting you there. From how often you sense the truth in a relationship, then keep acting like more time, more patience, more understanding will somehow make misalignment disappear. From how often you confuse emotional control with emotional strength. From how often you pour your brilliance into futures that never fully choose you back. That hurts, doesn't it? Because when Aquarius loves, it is not small. It is not shallow. It is not random. You may take time to trust, but once you do, your loyalty has a rare kind of intelligence. You do not just care about who someone is today. You care about who they could become. You believe in potential. You believe in growth. You believe in the possibility that a person, a dream, a bond, a life can become more honest, more expansive, more free. But what happens when you keep investing in potential at the expense of reality? What happens when the version you are waiting for never arrives? What happens when your vision becomes the very thing keeping you in limbo? This is where many Aquarians are standing now, at the threshold between what could be and what actually is. And that threshold can feel brutal, because once you truly see, you cannot unsee. Once the illusion breaks, even partially, going back feels unbearable. You may be realizing that some people liked the version of you that was endlessly available, but not fully expressed. The version that could hold complexity without making demands. The version that gave insight without asking for reciprocity. The version that was fascinating, supportive, original, emotionally intelligent, and somehow still easy to overlook. But something in you is no longer willing to be impressive at the cost of being known. And that is where your real power begins. Not in proving yourself, not in winning people over, not in making everyone understand. Aquarius rises when you stop translating your truth into something easier for everyone else to digest. You rise when you stop diluting the signal. You rise when your life becomes an honest reflection of what you know, what you feel, and what you refuse to keep negotiating away. This may show up first as irritation. That is important. Sometimes irritation is just anger that has finally become specific. It is the body saying, this boundary matters. This dynamic is draining me. This joke is not funny anymore. This role is too small. This promise has gone unpaid. This place no longer fits the person I am becoming. Do not rush to dismiss that feeling just because it is inconvenient. Aquarius often waits until the evidence is overwhelming before acting. You like clarity, you like patterns, you like certainty. But life does not always hand you certainty before it asks for courage. Sometimes all you get is a persistent inner no. A tightness when you say yes to something misaligned. A heaviness after interactions that used to feel manageable. A growing inability to betray your own instincts without consequence. Pay attention to that. Because your next chapter may not begin with applause. It may begin with discomfort, with silence, with a decision that makes less sense to the outside world than it does inside your bones. With the first honest conversation you have been postponing. With the first boundary that reveals who truly respects you and who only preferred your flexibility. And yes, that can get lonely. Let's not romanticize transformation so much that we lie about the middle. There is often a stretch in the Aquarian journey where you outgrow the emotional vocabulary of your current life, before the new one has fully arrived. You are no longer who you were, but you are not yet fully surrounded by what matches who you are becoming. Old spaces feel stale, old roles feel itchy, old relationships feel strangely fluorescent, like you can suddenly see every hidden crack. And for a while, that can make you question whether you are being too sensitive, too distant, too demanding, too impossible to please. You are not impossible to please. You are becoming impossible to fool. That is different. And people who benefited from your confusion may not celebrate your clarity. Some may call you selfish when you become less available. Some may call you dramatic when you stop minimizing. Some may act confused when you finally say out loud what has been obvious for months. Some may suddenly become very affectionate the moment they sense your energy withdrawing. Not because they are evil, not always, but because every system resists change when that change exposes an imbalance. Aquarius, your awakening may be changing the power dynamics in your relationships more than you realize. When you stop over-explaining, who becomes uncomfortable? When you stop doing emotional labor for free, who starts reaching harder? When you stop laughing off what hurts, who accuses you of changing? When you stop making yourself endlessly understandable, who reveals that they were never truly listening? These are not small questions. These are the kinds of questions that separate performance from intimacy, access from care, proximity from loyalty. And if you have been feeling a little more private lately, a little more selective, a little more unwilling to give everyone backstage access to your mind, that may not be withdrawal. That may be discernment. Because one of the most painful lessons Aquarius learns is that being seen as special is not the same thing as being cherished well. People can admire your originality and still fail to show up for your softness. They can love your mind and still flinch at your truth. They can enjoy your light while expecting you to hide your grief. They can be inspired by your freedom while quietly resenting the parts of you they cannot control. And you, with your vast capacity for perspective, may keep trying to understand them, long after understanding has stopped being healing. There comes a point when your peace matters more than your explanations. There comes a point when your future matters more than one last conversation that changes nothing. There comes a point when the most evolved thing you can do is stop giving your life force to what repeatedly misreads it. This is one of your turning points. Not because everything is falling apart, but because the structures that once held your identity together are no longer strong enough for your next level of truth. And unlike signs that cling to what is familiar, you were born with rebellion in your bloodstream. Even when you resist change, some part of you is built for liberation. Some part of you has always known that your life was never meant to be a neat little repetition of everybody else's expectations. You were not made for emotional captivity disguised as stability. You were not made for success that costs your aliveness. You were not made for connection that requires self-erasure. You were not made to spend your brightest years being palatable to people who are only comfortable with half of you. And yet, many Aquarians, for reasons that make perfect sense, still try. You try because you are compassionate. You try because you see the wound underneath people's behavior. You try because you know what it means to feel like an outsider. You try because giving up on someone can feel like giving up on possibility itself. But hear me clearly, mercy is beautiful, chronic self-abandonment is not. That difference may become unavoidable now. This is where the emotional intensity rises. Because it is one thing to realize you need change. It is another thing to understand the price of refusing it. If you keep living in contradiction, your body may tell you before your mind is ready. Sleep disturbed for no obvious reason. Creative energy drying up around the wrong people. A constant low-grade agitation. Moments of numbness followed by sudden waves of feeling. The strange grief of recognizing that you have outgrown places you worked very hard to belong to. That grief is real. Let it be real. Not every ending comes with betrayal loud enough to justify itself. Some endings arrive because your spirit can no longer survive the maintenance of something misaligned. Some losses are not failures. They are evidence that your inner life has become too honest to keep performing against itself. And Aquarius, your inner life is powerful. More powerful than you sometimes admit. Because beneath the wit, the insight, the originality, the future-minded brilliance, there is a heart that aches for meaningful existence. You do not just want attention, you want resonance. You do not just want movement, you want evolution. You do not just want romance, success, friendship, or purpose in the shallow sense. You want the version of those things that feels alive, truthful, and worthy of your mind and spirit. That is why half-hearted living drains you so deeply. That is why small talk can feel unbearable in seasons when your soul is changing. That is why you can be surrounded and still feel alone if nobody is meeting you at the level of truth you now require. And that is why your next step may not be about becoming more likable. It may be about becoming more congruent, more honest in your choices, more precise in your boundaries, more careful with your energy, more ruthless about what no longer deserves access, more willing to disappoint others instead of constantly disappointing yourself. Yes, I said ruthless. Not cruel, not bitter. Ruthless in the sense that a person becomes when they finally understand that their future cannot be built on chronic compromise. Ruthless in the sense that they no longer negotiate with what keeps wounding them. Ruthless in the sense that they stop calling their own intuition irrational, just because it threatens a comfortable arrangement. And once Aquarius reaches that stage, the current changes fast. Because your power has never come from fitting in. It has always come from pattern interruption, from seeing the hidden possibility, from refusing stale frameworks, from sensing the future before others know what they are looking at. So when you begin applying that same brilliance to your own life, instead of only everyone else's, everything starts moving. You begin noticing opportunities where there used to be only emotional noise. You begin creating instead of just coping. You begin speaking with a different frequency, and the people who can hear it start finding you. You begin choosing environments where your nervous system does not have to brace itself. You begin treating your time like something holy. You begin building from self-respect instead of hunger. That is the second great escalation in your story. Not just seeing the problem, but redirecting your genius toward your own liberation. And let me tell you what that often looks like in real life. It may look like leaving the group chat quieter than usual, then realizing the silence feels like medicine. It may look like no longer volunteering to rescue the person who only remembers your value when their world is collapsing. It may look like changing how you work, what you create, what you accept, what you charge, what you reveal, what you tolerate. It may look like the terrifying relief of saying, "This is not enough for me anymore." It may look like a new discipline entering your life, not from pressure, but from alignment. It may look like finally admitting that you are not lazy, flaky, detached, or impossible. You have simply been uninspired by what keeps asking you to betray your nature. Because when Aquarius is aligned, the energy is undeniable. Your mind sharpens, your voice steadies, your creativity returns. Your standards rise, your humor gets cleaner, your fear loses some of its authority. Your future starts feeling less like fantasy and more like architecture, and the world can feel that shift before it fully understands it. People may suddenly project more onto you, more curiosity, more resistance, more fascination, more discomfort. Why? Because self-possession has a charge to it. Especially in someone who has spent years underestimating their own authority. The moment you stop asking permission to be who you already are, the room recalibrates. That can be exhilarating. It can also be confronting. Because power is not only about receiving more, it is about becoming responsible for what you know. And Aquarius, you know more than you sometimes let yourself say. You know which relationship keeps you emotionally half-fed. You know which version of success no longer excites you. You know where you have been overgiving to avoid feeling replaceable. You know where you have mistaken mental stimulation for emotional safety. You know which dream still haunts you because it is not dead, only delayed. You know which environment has been dimming your frequency. You know. The question is not whether the knowing is there. The question is whether you are ready to honor it with action, because the final transformation does not happen when you have the insight. It happens when your behavior starts matching the insight. When you stop texting what you already know will drain you. When you stop performing ease in situations that cost you peace. When you stop calling your intuition dramatic. When you stop saying, maybe later, to the life that keeps calling your name. When you stop confusing your capacity to endure with a requirement to stay. This is the third escalation. The one where the old identity does not just crack, it becomes unlivable. And if that feels intense, good. Some truths are meant to interrupt you. You are not here to be a beautifully misunderstood side character in your own life. You are not here to be the emotional emergency contact for people who do not know how to care for you. You are not here to turn your uniqueness into a service everyone consumes while you quietly starve for depth. You are not here to keep waiting for perfect certainty before you become honest. You are here to live in a way that feels electrically, unmistakably yours. That may require a new level of solitude. But not the lonely kind, the sacred kind, the kind that clears static, the kind that teaches you the sound of your own inner voice again, the kind that reveals which desires are truly yours and which were inherited from fear, pressure, comparison, or old survival scripts, the kind that helps you separate being desired from being respected, being needed from being loved, being admired from being met. And once you taste that level of clarity, you may never again be satisfied with counterfeit connection. This is where many Aquarians become almost unrecognizable to people who knew only their adaptive self. You become calmer, but harder to manipulate, kinder but less available for confusion, more open-hearted but less easily accessed, more visionary but also more grounded, less interested in fantasy bonds, less seduced by inconsistency, less willing to explain why your peace matters. You stop chasing the electric thrill of potential and start choosing what is steady enough to hold your actual life. That is maturity, that is healing, that is power. And yes, there is a version of success attached to that, but not just the shallow kind, not just attention, money, status, or influence. Though those things may grow as you align. The deeper success is this. Your outer life begins to reflect your inner truth with less distortion. Your work becomes clearer. Your relationships become cleaner. Your decisions become less chaotic. Your energy stops leaking into dead ends. Your creativity stops serving compensation and starts serving calling. That is when Aquarius becomes magnetic in a way that cannot be manufactured. Because true magnetism is not performance, it is coherence. It is what happens when your mind, your heart, your values, and your choices stop fighting each other. It is what happens when your originality is no longer a costume but a lived reality. It is what happens when you finally understand that freedom is not just escaping cages. It is no longer building your home inside one. So if this season has felt strange, if you have felt detached from what used to motivate you, disappointed by what used to impress you, emotional in ways you cannot fully explain, maybe that does not mean you are losing yourself. Maybe it means you are returning. Returning to the part of you that always knew when something was false. Returning to the version of you that does not beg to be chosen. Returning to the brilliance that gets buried when you are too busy emotionally surviving. Returning to the future that requires a more honest present. And I want to leave you with this, Aquarius. Your life may not change because everybody suddenly understands you. It may change because you finally stop requiring that. Your breakthrough may not arrive through one dramatic event. It may arrive through a series of private decisions that slowly become a new identity, a boundary held, a truth spoken, a room left, a pattern broken, a standard raised, a silence protected, a dream taken seriously, a version of you retired for good. That is how the current turns. That is how a person who was once tolerated becomes undeniable. That is how a soul that has been scattered returns to its own center. That is how the one who always saw the future becomes brave enough to live inside it. So let the misunderstanding happen if it must. Let the distance reveal what was never sturdy. Let the discomfort expose what has been draining you. Let the clarity cost what it costs. Because what waits on the other side is not a more polished mask. It is not a better performance. It is not another chapter of being almost fulfilled. It is a life with more voltage in it, more truth, more creative fire, more self-respect, more precise love, more honest success, more peace that does not have to be defended every hour of the day. And if some part of you already knows this, if some quiet place inside you is whispering yes, while the rest of you is still afraid, listen to that whisper. It may be the most faithful voice you have heard in a long time. Aquarius, the old life can keep calling your name. The old roles can keep reaching for you. The old version of you can try one more time to make itself useful, digestible, unthreatening. But you'd not owe the past your future. Not anymore. There is a stronger signal coming through now. Follow it.